You know, I'm actually happy with the way this is looking, but I'm not sure about this texture here. It's bothering me, the transition. So what I'm gonna do, to be honest with you, I'm just gonna go back to my landscape follow. I'm gonna remove this layer. That's one of the advantages that we got when we dealing with this, that we design like this, that we can easily just detach some of this functionality, put on the side here for later, and just make the small changes. And if I save it, it should look the same minus the stone, which is exactly the case. All right, yeah, I think I like this. So I'm just gonna, it's also gonna help us simplify a little bit the next step, so it's worth it to, for the sake of the class, just to show to you exactly what I mean by that. All right, so let's do this. So now that I have this in here, let's start playing with our grass. So I want to have grass only on the green, which means if this alpha is masking that for me, if I pull a pipe from this and I look for grass, and I'm looking for the landscape grass output, I should be able to get some of those assets displayed in this. If I save it, nothing's gonna happen. The reason for that is because we don't quite yet have the asset in here, the grass type, landscape grass type, hooked up. We have the node that is saying use that mask, but we don't have the landscape grass type. And this asset is essentially like a table of assets, like an array, that you can use and list it, how many assets you want to be, or actors you want to be created here, and the amount of which you want. So let's play that. If I go to this sum down here, you're going to see there's already one created. And that's because this is the one that I'm providing with the project. But we're going to create a new one. And the fastest way to do this is to select that node, go to the drop down, and say landscape grass type. It's going to ask you to find a folder to save it. So I'm just going to navigate to the material library, landscape follow, and I'm going to name it LGT. That's the naming convention underscore landscape follow, and press save. All right, if I save this again, nothing's gonna happen. That is because even though we have this here, we haven't yet added assets to the list. So let's do that. It's very straightforward. You're gonna see the magic happen in real time. So we're just gonna go here, double click, and you can see there's a little bit of a different viewport. The way that this looks is interesting, right? It's not really like the material that we see before. It just gives me like a grass varieties in an array. It says to me that it's 0 right now. So then we need to go here and start adding static meshes to populate this scene. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to get very close to an area that we can see a little bit of each. And then I'm going to press this plus button. When I do it, you see I have an index 0. And if I go to the drop-down menu, it has all the possible options that I can use for this asset. So I'm going to explain to you, and we're going to be starting with the grass. So for the grass in this case, I'm going to go to my content browser here, look for the folder called art, and I'm going to go to the 2D Tiny Town. I already prepared some materials for you, but if you go here inside the textures, you can actually see each one of the textures that we might be using, right? So we have a bush, grass, and mushrooms. I also set up then as sprites if you want to use for something else. But in this case, I'm just getting like a plane. And I can show to you how to create a plane like this if you want. It's just a plane. Applying the texture that you see there. Setting the material to be two-sided. And I'm going to show to you how to create a material too. And have that in here. So if I go here to my material, the one that I created, all that I'm doing is just getting the texture coordinate. I'm going to do this multiply of the material. I'm doing an add instead of a multiply. Essentially, the add, what it does is move up and down. So if I go here to my vertical move, you can see that the position of the object into the map here, the cube changes. The reason why I did this, let me Ctrl Z really quick, because I don't want to lose the value that we had there, is because this sprite specifically is not really sitting on the bottom of the asset. It has a little bit of a gap. And I'm just doing that to a texture that I created a parameter called 2D elements. And that texture of mine has the RGB going to base color and the alpha going to opacity mask. You can change this to unlit if you want, the material shading model, so there's no light information being cast, but I felt like it wasn't looking the way that I wanted, so I'd rather just have this of default values into the asset. Okay, so very straightforward material. If I go back here, you can see all the instances that I created based on this, and each one of the instances is just a different sprite. Okay, so we kind of need each one to have a different sprite. So I have all those 3 sprites there. But my mesh, I'm running out of space here. My mesh only has one of them that apply. And that's by design, because what I'm going to do inside the landscape grass type is use the same mesh, but just override the material. So let me close all the stuff that I opened. And that material was very straightforward. We already learned how to create a material that's way more complex than that, so I'm pretty sure you're going to be able to do this. So what I want to do is get my static mesh, put all the way here, save it. And if by any chance you don't see the grass showing up, which happens sometimes, you can just go to landscape, create a layer really quick. Make a small brush. And I'm just gonna force this to update by just lightly touching. Make a small change there. And just like that, you can start seeing the grass showing up in the environment. It takes a second to load. Maybe you need to change the material really quick to force this operation. Pretty awesome, right? So I'm gonna go back to my LJT landscape. So let me explain some of the settings here, and it's gonna make a lot of sense. So I'm gonna zoom out a little bit, find that cool angle that we had before. The first one is the grass density. That's essentially the amount of grass is gonna show up. So if I increase to 1,000, you can see they have way more of that grass everywhere. If I decrease this to like 10, you're gonna see it's gonna be sporadic here and there. Okay, so that's the first one. I will literally leave this as 1,000. I want to have a lot. The second setting I want to pay attention to is the scaling. Right now it's scaling uniformly, so it goes from 1 to say 10, and you can see how that affects the grass. This looks way more lush than it actually is. It's kind of funny. So I don't want that to happen, so what I usually like to do is just go for 0.8 to 1.2. So at least from one grass to the other, there's some variation of size. What is bothering me here is that every single one of these grass meshes are rotated some directions. And if you go down here, you can see that it has random rotation. You could disable that. So they all face in the direction that the mesh is set up to be. Which might mean that my landscape is actually facing this way here. That's the direction of my landscape actually. Which is what I want, because the camera is going to be fixed anyway, so just lagging like this, the proper rotation. You always come back and change the direction. You have another one here called align to surface. So you can see there's like there's a dip into the surface. You can either enable or disable. If you disable, they're all facing up. If you enable, they're facing the direction of the surface, the normal of the surface, which is pretty cool. The next is up to you, but I don't think I need to have shadows in each one of these, because they're essentially 2D planes. And in some of these cases running parallel. So you can just go here, say cast dynamic shadow off. So it's just grass. And you can also remove contact shadow. We're not seeing any contact shadow anyway. Basically makes no difference. So you can just remove and see some memory like that. The other thing you can play with, if I zoom out, let me make sure that this is a little bit big. You can start seeing the culling distance in effect there. Unreal is not loading any of the grasses that it doesn't need if you're not seeing it. For this scene specifically, I think that the full values are pretty fine, because like if I'm here, I can see the details far enough. But if by any chance you want to increase that or decrease, you're playing with the start and end culling distance. So if I go here and I see my end culling distance, I'm just going to add a 0, and you're going to notice that you're going to have grass everywhere now, very far away. Of course, look how far this grass is being rendered. Sometimes we don't need that much. I'm going to leave it to you, Because when we start adding trees, a lot of the stuff that we see in the horizon is going to be masked out by those assets. So we might never see this transition here, to be honest with you. We might never see this. But if that's bothering you, just add an additional 0 or just add a 5 here. And that should be enough to get you enough grass that will mask everything. Okay, so that's very straightforward. Just like that, we have a bunch of grass. I'm going to press play. I have a character set up already. We haven't done that yet, but I just wanted to show to you how this looks. Which is pretty cool. We might need to change the light in the scene, but you have your grass. Escape key. So what we can do right now, since we already set up this grass and we kind of want the other assets to do the same thing, I can just move my index here, go to this drop down and say duplicate. And as I'm doing this, Unreal is going to calculate with this new mesh, okay? What I want to do though is go to my override material because I'm using the same mesh, but then I'm changing this for example, the bush. And if I put it there, Unreal is going to calculate that, and you can see that it's adding all those tiny bushes everywhere. So for the bush, of course, I don't want as much, so I'm going to go to my density here. I'm going to drastically remove this to like 20. I want one every now and then. But the thing is, they are really disappearing on the grass there. It doesn't look like they are a bush. They're the same size essentially. So here I'm going to go to my uniform and essentially times 2. Max size times 2. So every now and then, there's a big bush. Might be too much to 20, so I'm going to reduce this to 10. I don't want to have as many. It's still too much, maybe 4. And every time I do this, it's going to recalculate and do that for me. Yeah, maybe that's a good number. Is it? Maybe it's a little bit too much. So I'm going to go and put 2. And there you go. I feel like that's more manageable. Close it. Go to the other one. Duplicate. And you see that it's also doing this. I'm going to move to the mushroom. Whoops. I'm going to override the material. For the mushroom material. And if I did this correctly, it's going to have a lot of mushrooms. And that's maybe a little bit too much. So we do the same thing. Put 10. A mushroom here and there. And as you can see, the whole goal of my showing you this is how easy it is to make those changes. Like this, if you think we just set up the material once and then we're using that as a mask to drive this. I'm gonna increase a little bit, which is very powerful because not only we have this mask being cast in real time, but why this is awesome is this. So I'm gonna press really quick play so we can take a look. And what I think is bothering me is I think the grass is too big. So before I show you the next thing, I'm going to go back here really quick. And I'm going to say 0.6, 0.5 actually in 1. Let's see the other looks. Oh yeah, now it looks good. It was competing size with the mushroom. I wasn't really digging it. But like this, it's pretty cool. But the mushrooms now, there are too many. So I'm gonna go here to my mushrooms and maybe just half that. All right, that seems to be good. Let it load for a second. I'm gonna press play. Yeah, I'm happy with this. And you can just do the way that you want. The light source is bothering me because it's casting shadow and everything, so it looks like there's a flickering there. So if I just put a shadow on the direction of the character, like from the camera to the character, it might be better. So I'm just gonna do that really quick. I'm gonna go to my light here, find my thing, and I'm just gonna rotate. There you go. Oof. Definitely do not like this. That's probably because the light's too strong. Yeah. Hate it. We're gonna do a light 3. 2. It also means the material needs to change. So I'm gonna go to material here. And specular, I'm gonna say 0. And that solved the issue. Yeah, definitely did not like how that looked like. But now I'm a little bit happier. This looks more straightforward to how it should be. Hey, look at that. Okay, so let's say I'm happy with this. Of course, I think that everything in this scene, this new map, the light's too strong, to be honest with you. So I'm gonna put 0.5. There's an auto exposure playing a role here, which is really annoying, but that's okay. I'm gonna save everything. What I want to show to you is this. Now that we have this set up, we can continue to add detail to it, but the cool thing is, if I go to my landscape, there you go, and let's say I want to continue flattening this area here a little bit more. Every time I make a change, that's going to update and cast those assets in there, which is very powerful. So I can just go here and start pulling, for example, another flatten, another one from here, and there's a ramp from here to here or something like that, and from here to here, and from here to here. So what I'm trying to say is that setup is done. So now everything that you do on top of that is going to update and respect the seconds that we had there, which is very powerful. You don't need to be worried. You don't need to be painting foliage by hand. You can just do that procedurally. Look how awesome this is. Cool. So let's just add more to this. Why not? So I'm going to push this back here. I'm going to get my bush, which is this one here. I'm going to duplicate. But instead of having the plane, I'm going to look for another geometry. I'm going to mix something in. So I have right now, everything is a 2D asset, is a flat plane. But if I go here and I look for my nature kit geometry, I'm able to find some grass. But what I also can do is look for flower. Maybe there's not named flower. Let's take a look. Let's find it. Oh, this is a cool asset. It's like a grounds hue. So if I do that and I put it there, you know, see it's gonna load it a bunch of them. And I'm gonna remove the material override because it was there before. And look at this. Pretty cool. Maybe that's a little bit too much. The colors not matching, but you can essentially run anything. So that's why don't we do like a rock small, for example. And the size, I'm going to say 0.8 to 1. The amount, I'm going to say leave it at 2. Let's see what happens with that. Oh, cool. A bit too big. 0.5, 0.8. And the amount, I'm going to reduce to 1. Nice. So every now and then there's a tiny rock in the environment. I can duplicate this. As you can see, I'm just going with the flow. There's not really a plan. I just know I want some stuff, and I just adding, just having fun. That's what I want from you. I want you to feel that you can do anything that you want. And I'm looking for a tiny flower geometry. See if I can find one. Oh, there you go. Flower tall. Let's put it there. And I think this one we can probably increase a little bit. Nice. Actually, let's increase this by a lot. Okay. Let's say they like, oh, I found a grass mesh that I like more than this. You can just replace it. That's the magic of it. Whatever you have there, you can just replace it and test it out. Ooh, this did not look that good. And if I press play, it's gonna be super giant. I have a suspicion. Yeah. So we don't want that, so we can always Ctrl Z, go back to where I was, and be happy with it. That's pretty much it. The work now consists in just adding more complexity to your scene. You're gonna be asking, Thiago, can I put some other stuff like trees? Yes, but the way that we're gonna approach trees is gonna be a little bit different. Because as you can see, look at the collision there. And that is an issue when we're dealing with this kind of workflow. So, even though I can go here to my saggings, there's nothing for collision. Okay? And that's by design. So you don't want it to make huge assets. For example, this rock might be too big, so I'm going to say 0.3, 0.5. That will look funky if the character is going through. We're not colliding with anything. This is essentially foliage too, but automatically placed. So if you want collision, we need to do in a different approach. If you want the character to be walking and he goes through a rock and hits the rock and can walk further, the approach is going to be different. For this thing here, it's fine. It's not an issue. So what we're going to do next is placing the trees everywhere. But for now, this is good enough for us. So have fun. Try playing with a bunch of assets that we have available for you and see what you can build.